Here is the elbow joint. We see the lower part of the humerus, and this is the ulna, this is the radius. And here is the artery, this is the brachial artery, and the terminal branches of the brachial artery is the radial artery and the ulnar artery. Around the elbow joint there are some connections in between the brachial artery and the radial and humeral, radial and ulnar arteries. When there is the flexion, if there is compression of this part of the artery, then the distal part of the limb will not suffer from hypoxia. For this realistic purpose, there is anastomosis around this elbow joint. Here we can see that the branches from the brachial artery, the superior ulnar collateral and the inferior ulnar collateral. The branches that runs down from the above, these are the collateral, and the branches that that moves upward, this is the recurrent branch. So in fact that this is a single vessel from joining this part and this part. Throughout this is a single vessel. But anatomical description, we divide this vessel into the upper part, this is the collateral, and lower part, this is the recurrent, and these vessel remain in the ulnar side. So this is the ulnar collateral, this is the ulnar recurrent, and there are two ulnar collateral and two ulnar recurrents. The collaterals are the superior ulnar collateral and the inferior ulnar collateral, and the recurrents are the anterior ulnar recurrent and the posterior ulnar recurrent. These are the same vessel, naming different in the different parts of the body. So this is the anastomosis in front of the medial epicondyle. This is the anterior ulnar recurrent artery and the inferior ulnar collateral artery. This is the anterior to the medial epicondyle. Posterior to the medial epicondyle, this is the posterior ulnar recurrent artery, and the superior ulnar collateral artery. In the lateral side, this is the lateral epicondyle, and in front of the lateral epicondyle we can see this is the arteria profunda brachii. It has two terminal branches, the radial collateral and the middle collateral artery. The radial collateral unites with the radial recurrent. So this is the radial recurrent, this is the radial collateral. They anastomose with each other in this elbow joint. And in the posterior side, here is a branch of the common interosseous. This is the posterior interosseous. From the posterior interosseous, there is the recurrent interosseous artery. This recurrent interosseous artery fuses with the middle collateral artery of the profunda brachii artery. So these are the anastomosis around the elbow. And the anastomosis around the wrist joint, here we can see this is the ulnar artery and this is the radial artery. This radial artery sends a Palmar carpal branch, and the ulnar artery also sends the Palmar carpal branch. These two Palmar carpal branches unite with each other, forming the Palmar carpal arch. This arch also has a contribution from downward. Here we see this is the superficial Palmar arch, and this is the deep Palmar arch. Deep Palmar arch is the direct continuation of the radial artery, and it forms the arch with the union of the deep branch of the deep Palmar branch of the ulnar artery. This forms the deep Palmar arch. From this deep Palmar arch, there is a recurrent branch. The artery that passes upward is known as the recurrent. So from this deep Palmar arch, there is a recurrent artery that joins with this Palmar carpal arch, and there is another contribution from the anterior interosseous artery. They form the Palmar metacarpal arch. This is the anastomosis around the palmar side of the wrist joint. In the dorsal side of the wrist joint, we can see there is the radial artery within the anatomical snap box, in between the extensor pollicis longus and the extensor pollicis brevis muscle. This is the anatomical snap box. In between these two tendons, the radial artery passes downward, and here there is a branch, that is the dorsal carpal branch. Here it was the Palmar carpal branch. This is the Palmar carpal branch, and in this side this is the dorsal carpal branch of the radial artery, and here is the dorsal carpal branch of the ulnar artery. These two arteries unite to form this dorsal carpal arch of the hand. This dorsal carpal arch has three branches that passes downward in between the metacarpal bones. So the name of these three arteries is the dorsal metacarpal arteries. So this is the anastomosis around the dorsal side of the wrist joint.